सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। May Brahman protect us both. May he nourish us both. May we work together with vigor. May our study make us illumined. May there be no dislike between us. Om peace, peace, peace.
This song is on Mother Sharda, and the gist of this song is here.
O Mother Sharda, the sages have known the Upanishads and scriptures. O Mother, make us the knower. Give us also the boon of the knowledge, Vidya. You are the goddess of sound, music. Every word, sound and song is yours. We are alone. We are incomplete without you. We are at your refuge. Please remove the darkness from our minds and give us the new horizon of light.
Sharda हमको उजालों का संसार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ।
I am reading from a passage from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. This is volume 1. The topic is Steps to Realization. This was a lecture delivered in America. Swamiji says, all the misery we have is of our own choosing. Such is our nature. The old Chinaman, who having been kept in prison for 60 years, was released on the coronation of a new emperor, exclaimed, when he came out, that he could not live. He must go back to his horrible dungeon among the rats and mice. He just could not bear the light. So he asked them to kill him or send him back to the prison, and he was sent back. Exactly similar is the condition of all of us. We run headlong after all sorts of misery and are unwilling to be freed from them. Every day we run after pleasure, and before we reach it, we find it is gone. It has slipped through our fingers. Still, we do not cease from our mad pursuit, but on and on we go, blinded fools that we are. In some oil mills in India, bullocks are used that go round and round to grind the oil seed. There is a yoke on the bullock's neck. They have a piece of wood protruding from the yoke, and on that is fastened a wisp of straw. The bullock is blindfolded in such a way that it can only look forward, so it stretches its neck to get at the straw, and in doing so, it pushes the piece of wood out a little further, and it makes another attempt with the same result, and yet another, and so on. It never catches the straw, but goes round and round in the hope of getting it, and in so doing grinds out the oil. In the same way, you and I, who are born slaves to nature, money and wealth, wives and children, are always chasing a wisp of straw, a mere chimera, and are going through an innumerable round of lives without obtaining what we seek. The great dream is love. We are all going to love and be loved. We are all going to be happy and never meet with misery. But the more we go towards happiness, the more it goes away from us. Thus the world is going on. Society goes on, and we, blinded slaves, have to pay for it without knowing. Study your own lives and find how little of happiness there is in them, and how little in truth you have gained in the course of this wild goose chase of the world. The sage wants liberty. He finds that sense objects are all vain, and that there is no end to pleasures and pains. How many rich people in the world want to find pleasures? All pleasures are old, and they want new ones. Do you not see how many foolish things they are inventing every day just to titillate the nerves for a moment? And that done, how there comes a reaction? The majority of people are just like a flock of sheep. If the leading sheep falls into a ditch, all the rest follow and break their necks. In the same way, what one leading member of a society does, all others do, without thinking what they are doing. When a man begins to see the vanity of worldly things, he will feel he ought not to be thus played upon or borne along by nature. That is slavery. If a man has a few kind words said to him, he begins to smile. And when he hears a few harsh words, he begins to weep. He is a slave to a bit of bread, to a breath of air, a slave to dress, a slave to patriotism, to country, to name and to fame. He is thus in the midst of slavery, and the real man has become buried within through this bondage. What you call man is a slave. When one realizes all this slavery, then comes the desire to be free. An intense desire comes. If a piece of burning charcoal be placed on a man's head, see how he struggles to throw it off. Similar will be the struggles for freedom of a man who really understands that he is a slave of nature. Every being that is in the universe has the potentiality of transcending the senses. Even the little worm will one day transcend the senses and reach God. No life will be a failure. There is no such thing as failure in the universe. 100 times man will hurt himself, 1,000 times he will tumble, but in the end he will realize that he is God. We know there is no progress in a straight line. Every soul moves as it were in a circle and will have to complete it. And no soul can go so slow that there will come a time when it will have to go upward. No one will be lost. We are all projected from one common center, which is God. The highest as well as the lowest life God ever projected will come back to the Father of all lives, from whom all beings are projected, in whom all live, and unto whom we all return. That is God. Here is reading. We'll have a short moment of meditation, and then we'll continue with the guest lecture.
Today's lecture is on Art of Living as taught by Shri Ravi Shankar. The lecture is by Shri Vikram Gupta. I would like to tell you a little bit about him. Shri Vikram Gupta is a senior global business executive with over 25 years experience with Tier 1 engineering, technology and solution companies working across all 6 continents. He is also an alumnus of Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad and National Institute of Technology, Srinagar. He has been living in Canada for past 13 years with his family, having spent equal amount of time in the Middle East prior to moving here. He has been associated with the Global Art of Living Foundation since past 20 years. He became a volunteer teacher 10 years ago and has been teaching the happiness program and is spreading the stress management, personal leadership mastery techniques and Sudarshan Kriya from his master Sri Ravi Shankar, who is a global spiritual and humanitarian leader. His family includes his wife, an MBA and Montessori professional, who is also an Art of Living teacher, teaching programs both for young adults and elders alike. Their elder son is Waterloo Engineering, an IB MBA graduate, while the younger son too is Waterloo Engineering graduate. Now I would like to invite Shri Vikram Gupta for the lecture.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Vikram and I belong to you. Thank you, Vikasji, Abhijitji and Vedanta Society for having me here amongst very distinguished people, all of you. I must admit it's the first time I'm here and it's almost 8 years since we moved to Toronto from Calgary. And I'm wondering why it took so long to be here. So thank you for this opportunity. Listening to the discourse on Swami Vivekanandaji and what Abhijitji you're reading, it was very striking to think that there were 2 key messages from the reading which you did. One was realization of who we are as a part of God. We just need to realize that. And second, finding a happiness which does not keep wavering with one material, one technological, one event to the other, but finding a happiness which does not go away, isn't it? So how do we find happiness which stays with us, no matter what are the ups and downs, no matter what are the situations, what are the events, what are the circumstances, finding a happiness which nothing can take away from us. So this really is the key message which Swami Vivekananda, through the knowledge he spread, that how with the light of knowledge we can remove this ignorance and find that balance which can lead to happiness. I can only imagine how lucky will be the people who are in physical contact with Swami Vivekananda when he was alive, from the time he was born to 1902 when he left his body in a very young age. And as they say, great masters are neither born nor die, but they simply visit this planet. 54 years later, another great man, another spiritual master was born. Sri Ravi Shankar, if some of you have heard of or you know of. We are very lucky to be in an era when such a master is there in our lives in a physical form. And we are equally very, very lucky to be able to see him, learn from him, and connect with him. So, because you mentioned it's almost 20 years ago that we came in touch with the master himself, Sri Ravi Shankar, and his organization which he founded in 1982, which is called Art de Vivre Canada in French and Art of Living Foundation globally. So for those of us who already know about Art of Living, I will probably not repeat too much, but for those of us who are here and learning about Art of Living or hearing about it first time, just to, in a few lines, explain to you what this foundation is about. So Art of Living Foundation is a global humanitarian, spiritual organization with same mission, I would say, as Vedanta Society has, really. It's to spread knowledge, spread joy, and help people to find that happiness which no one can take away. Really, that's really what it is all about. And in 1982 is when Art of Living organization was founded by Sri Ravi Shankar. At a time when he went in a deep meditation for 10 days. And in that period after the meditation, he discovered Sudarshan Kriya, a very, very special breathing technique which has touched the lives of 450 million people across 162 countries. You know, Vedanta Society is about knowledge, is about one world family, pan-cultures, pan-religions, pan-countries. And that's what exactly Art of Living is about. 162 countries, 450 million people who have taken the Art of Living workshops, whether they are NASA astronauts, whether they are Harvard doctors or Harvard MBAs, or just simple people working in the fields, to the laborers, to the professionals, teachers, any walk of life, any religion. That's the impact Sri Ravi Shankar had, in this mankind. When he was 4-year-old, he could recite Bhagavad Gita on his own. And he used to say that there's a whole world waiting for me. I mean, that's what he said when he was a very, very young child as well. That there's a whole world waiting for me. And today there is no part of this planet which he has not touched. With his simplicity, with his wisdom, with his love. In fact, one of the key mantras or the key message of Art of Living is, love moves the world. So, through his knowledge, through his teachings, through his practices, through Art of Living which we have, been teaching, he himself, and he has about 12,000 volunteer teachers around the world who are spreading the knowledge, because he feels that this knowledge is so precious and the time on this planet is so limited we have, in the finite bodies we have, that we need to scale up very quickly. And it is exactly for the same reason that he passed this knowledge to 12,000 teachers, including myself and my wife Archana, who's sitting here. And I would like to invite you all to also become a part of this journey, to spread this knowledge, which is so precious. To have this peace, not only for our own selves, but each life we touch. To be very happy, it's one thing to be happy ourselves. Unless we're happy ourselves, we really cannot spread that happiness. But then we also cannot be happy if our neighbors are not happy and the people beyond are not happy. So happiness, we are really, if anything, some people say these organizations, these gurus, they are cults, that's a discourse many people do many times. If there is a cult, then we are a happiness cult. We like to be called people who are always happy, they're always smiling. In fact, there's an organization I used to work for, and there's a guy from Scotland who used to come every time. And he used to tell my colleague, what is wrong with this guy? Referring to me. Why is he always smiling? So that's the impact of Art of Living for the organization which we had on us. And I would really like you to explore how a Art of Living happiness program can bring about a happiness not only outside, on our faces and externally, but also internally bring about a happiness no matter what is the circumstance. Nobody can take it away. So really, this is, in summary, what Art of Living is all about, what Sri Ravi Shankar's organization, which he founded, is all about. Coming to 2 or 3 very specifics about Art of Living. Again, connecting it with the subject of what Abhijit was reading about realizing God. Most of us who are sitting here have, in one way or some other part of our knowledge sessions, have learned how this life we have been endowed with to realize who God is and how, as a part of God, we are. Yet, we can read a lot of books, there's a lot of knowledge, there's a terabytes of knowledge out there on this subject. And a knowledge which cannot be explained in a few sentences, which a young adult cannot understand. That knowledge, to me, then becomes a subject only for the PhDs and deep analytical thinkers. This planet with 7 billion people have people of all intellects, and finding a common knowledge which everybody can understand. Knowledge for dummies, as we may call it. That's the key. And through Art of Living Foundation, what Sri Ravi Shankar has really shown us is that what are the 6 layers of our existence which we need to overcome to realize that self or to realize God. And what are those 6 layers which we teach in our workshop? What are those 6 layers of our existence which we need to overcome to realize that God? So the first one is our body, our physical body. The second is the breath. We are all breathing. The third one is mind. The fourth is our intellect. The fifth is our memory. And the sixth is our ego. And through this workshop, we make each and every individual to connect with each of these layers, which really is a part of us, and have a deep experience of how these 6 layers we need to overcome to actually then reach the 7th layer, which is what we are here to seek, which is ourselves. And that's what is God. So this is a very, very beautiful workshop in which we help each individual to go through their journey to see that self. And quite frankly, 20 years ago, I used to, with my wife, live in Bahrain, and there were people calling me every time, hey, there's the Art of Living workshop, why don't you come and join us and listen what we do. I was a busy global executive, hardly any time for these things, and very dismissive. So almost for 1 year I was very dismissive about this whole thing. But the person who was calling me kept on persisting. And after a year and a half, I signed up to attend an intro workshop like this one. And here I am 20 years later. Together with my wife, we not only benefited ourselves, but we became teachers. We were very privileged to be chosen by the Master to pass on the knowledge, including our children, 2 boys, now they're grown up, and they got into it very early on. And having traveled the whole world, met with a lot of people, a lot of cultures, and knowing all the pressures the children, young adults, and the adults go through these days, I can only share our personal journey that it's been very insightful, very impactful, and very humbling to get so grounded and yet be very peaceful and have that happiness which sometimes you feel you are on a high without needing anything externally. And of course, this temple of meditation and knowledge you all come here for is exactly for the same reasons. Talking of Sudarshan Kriya, which is really the DNA and the core of Art of Living programs. This is a special breathing technique, which, as I mentioned, the Master, after 10 days of deep silence, it dawned upon him. And it's such a unique healing process. Many of us, let's say if you're 40 years old, 50 years old, what have you, from the time we are born till date, we are experiencing all the time. And all the events of the life are getting imprinted on our mind. If we have headache, we can take a Tylenol, right? If we have a thyroid, we can take a thyroxine. For a diabetes, we have a metformin, or so on and so forth. However, have you ever wondered all these experiences which our mind, from the time we are born till date, is having, and imprinting on that layers of experiences on the mind? How do we cleanse that? For those of us who have used computers here, if our hard disk, sometimes we can defragment that, or we have an antivirus we run to clean our hard drive on a computer. But what do we have to run an antivirus on our mind? And that's the question. And that's what is the unique contribution of Sri Ravi Shankar to this planet. Sudarshan Kriya is perhaps one of the very few or the only techniques available which can deal with the unseen and the unknown. And once you experience and learn Sudarshan Kriya through the Art of Living teachers, you are reborn fresh as a new child is. Whatever you have experienced, all those impressions get cleansed such that you get into a state which is your real state, the innocent state with which you're born. That's how refreshing it is. And once you have learned it at the workshop, what we call the happiness workshop, then of course we then give you a tool which you can practice on your own for about 15 minutes every day. And then it's like the chiseling of a diamond, with every 15 minutes of practice, just like you do with meditation. It takes you to a state and brings you the realizations and the happiness which we just talked about. So beautiful is this process. And then the other thing which in Art of Living Foundation we do is knowledge. In fact, Sri Ravi Shankar today is one of the ambassadors of Vedas in the globe. He has repackaged the Vedic knowledge in a very, very, very simple manner, such that it can be understood by people who are very intellectual to the people who are simple, not so intellectual people living their normal lives. That is his unique contribution. So there's a very common thread which you do here in your society as well as what we do in the Art of Living Foundation. And finally, I can sum up the whole tenet of Art of Living in 3 words, which is seva, which is service. Second is sadhana, which is meditation, all the practices. And satsang, which is the company of all the like-minded people, where we sing and dance together and just be happy. So we are very infectious people and we spread happiness. That's what we do. And that's what Art of Living is about. Happy to answer any questions.
You said about the 6 layers. It very, very much relates to the koshas that are described in the Upanishads. Right?
Absolutely.
And basically, what you are saying is this technique of what Art of Living teaching is getting rid of those koshas where ultimately enter the Atma.
Absolutely.
Or realize the Atma.
Absolutely. But, doing it in a manner which is not at a level of intellect, but a level of experience. So what Sri Ravi Shankar has done is, all this infinite knowledge we have, in a 9-hour workshop of Art of Living, he makes you to experience these things. And once we experience things physically and through our own mind, it gets very deep. We don't, what we could read for 50 hours, he explains to you in a matter of few minutes. That's the power of the Master.
One question again is, yes, I agree with the power of the Master, right? But the power of the workshops that are conducted, how the Master's power is conveyed through the workshop, is that similar?
So beautiful. And actually you already answered the question in your question itself. And it's a very, very sacred question. I can just tell you to this, before I answer, I can answer very quickly, but I will tell you a real experience. So Michael Fisherman, Jew, and one of US's top advertisement executives, he was the president of Art of Living in US for 25 years. And he and Sri Ravi Shankar have met so many presidents of US through all the mayors in the US, and so many cities have named their Sri Ravi Shankar's birthday as kind of the day of their states and such in US. So Michael Fisherman wrote a book called Stumbling into Infinity, in which he explained something very, very beautiful. So here he was, Sri Ravi Shankar was giving a discourse, and those days there were no video cameras in India, and in US there was a he told Mikey, bring your video camera from US next time you come to Bangalore, where Sri has a big ashram. And we will record this lecture, what he will Everything, by the way, Sri Ravi Shankar speaks, every single word he speaks is time capsuled, is being recorded for posterity. Every single word he speaks. So there was a big audience, a couple of hundred people, and Sri Ravi Shankar is sitting there, and Mikey is here with his video camera, and he just, signals him that, okay, I'm about to start, and you can start the recording. And the recording doesn't start, the camera doesn't work. And this is captured in his book. So he says, look, I have been using this video camera forever. And even before coming here, I tested it, checked the VHS tape or whatever, everything he checked. And he's doing it and it doesn't work. He's flustered because now the whole audience is hearing. He stops, on this, that, changes the sides of the cassette, such. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. So he looks at the master and signals that, look, it doesn't work. So he says, the master simply goes in quietness and he just starts to speak. And he just tells Mikey, just relax. And then he says the whole recording begins. Now, we are not trying, what he was explaining was not any magics or anything like that which Sri does. What he was explaining was the consciousness and the master and the infinity, how it takes over. And how, when these courses and these workshops are conducted, it is not those 10,000 or 12,000 teachers which are delivering those workshops, including me or my wife. We are teachers here. Trust me. It is at that time that we go in a remote mode. It is the master who takes over. And we just become instruments. We are like those lenses. If you just place a lens and a sun ray is passing through them, that's who we become. So we are not the doers, we are not the teachers. The teachers, the knowledge, however it is happening, it is the master. We are just but the instruments. So I don't know if it answers. A long answer to a short question. Yes, please.
Could you speak a little more about the Sudarshan Kriya? Give us some sense of what is different or special about this technique without giving away the secret, as it were. I'm sure we have to do during the workshop, but you can give us maybe some more essential.
Of course. So, first of all, let's talk of Sudarshan Kriya. I'll just break this whole word in three parts. Sudarshan Kriya. Sanskrit word. So, Su really means proper. Darshan is vision. And Kriya means action. So, a proper vision action. So, it's really a breathing technique which inculcates proper vision. When you do this happiness workshop and you do this Darshan Kriya, it's so powerful. And after each workshop, I explained that 450 million people who have learned Sudarshan Kriya, 450 million people. And all 450 million people have individual, unique experience after doing Sudarshan Kriya. Number one. Now you can begin to think, ponder, what do you mean by different experience? Some people, when they do this technique, they feel as if they are floating and they have electric current of 20,000 kilowatt in their body. Some people begin to laugh like they have never laughed in their life. Yet some people begin to cry as if they can never stop crying. Some people experience the peace and the bliss which they have never experienced. And I'm just giving you the spectrum of the experiences what people go through once they learn this breathing technique. Now, of course, people who do yoga and people who do pranayams, and we learn a lot of breathing techniques in yoga and pranayams as a part of that. What is so unique about this breathing technique is, and I'm giving part of the secret away, you know, if you go to an orchestra and you have a conductor leading an orchestra, here the master has created a rhythm of breathing, which in a single session we do for about half an hour in 2 parts. And that rhythm of the breathing which he has given to this planet is through which all these experiences happen, all this reset of the impressions of mind happens. You know what's so unique about each one of us is all of us have our own experiences, have our own karmas, our own past life impressions and the current life impressions. And each one of us have our own journeys to experience and reach the highest, right? Each one of us have our own unique journeys. And this process connects us with our own individual unique journey to prepare us to get there. Right? And I guess the closest explanation that I can give to you about Sudarshan Kriya.
How does your breathing differ from Ramdev's Ablom Vilom?
So, Anulom Vilom is absolutely very nice pranayam, one of the pranayams, as is Vastrika, as is a few others. But these are just pranayams, right? Sudarshan Kriya is totally different than this. As I explained, there's a rhythm of breathing which surpasses Anulom Vilom, Vastrika, all that. And absolutely different rhythm, unique, and this is really the DNA of art of living. But certainly, everything Swami Ramdev teaches, all of that is a subset of what we do in art of living. And one more thing I may just add to what you said. Similarly, meditation is also one of the key things along with yoga, which is a part of the happiness program which we teach in Art of Living. You know, people who have been doing meditation for many, many years, whether it's Brahma Kumaris, whether it is, you know, Vedanta Society, or many, many people teach, many organizations teach meditation. So we have had many people who have done Sudarshan, who have been meditators for many years, and then they did Sudarshan Kriya. So their experience is what we learned from them is, suddenly the meditation they were doing for 15 years, and once they did Sudarshan Kriya, that their experience with the meditation has become so, so unique and deep. And they have now begun to realize the benefits of the meditation, which they have been doing for many, many years. So that's very compelling as well.
How many workshops are there and where is it located?
Thank you. So I'll talk both across Canada, across GTA as well. So of course, across Canada, in Montreal, in Trois-Rivières, very close to that, we have a huge Art of Living ashram which was set up about 30 years ago. And each year the master comes here, typically on a full moon day in July, Guru Purnima, what we call. He's been coming here for 30 years. So that's the main ashram in Canada. In GTA, in Drew Road in Mississauga, we have a center where a lot of people, not only the workshops happen, but also once the workshop, people who have done workshops, we meet once every week for people to do practice in the company of everybody else, which you can do anywhere in the world. As I explained, 162 countries, so hardly any city in the world where art of living workshop doesn't happen. In Canada, of course, every city has art of living chapters. Every city in Canada. In GTA, we have close to here chapters in Markham, chapters in Scarborough, chapters in Ajax, in Mississauga, in Brampton, Oakville, Burlington, where we live. Downtown Toronto, quite a few places. I would say at least there are 15 chapters in GTA, all spread across GTA, where these workshops and follow-up sessions happen. And and of course every other country in the world as well.
How many workshops?
So, when we say a workshop is a unique program which a teacher organizes once he has a quorum of, a couple of people to do this workshop afresh. So, I would say in Canada, maybe over 300 workshops happen every year. 300 to 400 workshops. For new people, right? And every week, across all those chapters in Canada, there's a follow-up happening. Just like you meet here every weekend. Similarly, in each chapter, people meet every weekend where they do this practice, what they have learned. There is a knowledge sharing, there is a satsang. Yeah.
And how much do you charge for these workshops?
Sure. So, let me just step back and explain to you what are the workshops types and then how much we charge. So, the core of the art of living is the happiness workshop. For that, people pay $375. We as teachers don't charge anything at all. I mean, the people who conduct these workshops are teachers like us, but we do it free of cost as a service, not charging anything. All this money, deducting any expenses which are needed, they go to the Art of Living Foundation, and all this money which Art of Living Foundation collects from around the world is spent back in all the humanitarian projects. Just in India alone, Art of Living has adopted 6,000 villages, there are so many rivers they're cleaning, and there are so many universities and so many, all that schools and what have you. I'm just giving an example of India. Same way, around the world, the Art of Living, all this money which is collected through these workshops is spent back for the, all the charitable work which the foundation does. And the administration expenses of Art of Living are just 2%. Only 2% of all the money which is collected is for admin and running the organization. Everything else is spent back for all the work which Art of Living does. So $375 for the happiness workshop. Then we have programs for children from 8 to 13 years, what we call as an Art Excel program for children. And there's another program called YES program, which is Young Adults Seminar for children from 13 to 18 years old. Because children of 8 to 13 have different needs, children of 13 to 18 years, young adults have different needs. Those programs cost about $250. Then we teach meditation. There's an Art of Meditation program. It's about $300. And then there is a Art of Silence program where for 5 days you go in a deep silence, and there's a lot of things you learn in that very beautiful workshop. For that you pay $495. And then of course the highest program in Art of Living is the Teachers program. And trust me, It costs almost $5,000. And but that's the best investment you make in your life, to become a teacher. It's not only to be able to teach people, but what you learn in the process of becoming teacher is so invaluable. So imagine, I'm a business executive. I'm not just a spiritual preacher. As a business executive, why would we be spending money on doing courses for which we don't charge, say, $0 to $1 even? Just think. So obviously there's something very, very unique in this experience. Please.
One question bothers me. A few years ago in UP, the Jamuna River was environmentally damaged by artificial road. Do you know anything about it, or any salvage has been done regarding it?
Thank you very much. And by the way, the venue you are referring to is very, very close to my sister's home. And incidentally, my sister's family have 2 Art of Living teachers as well. So this is the World Cultural Festival, which was held on the rivers of Yamuna, banks of Yamuna River. There was a lot of publicity. To answer your question succinctly, no damage has been done. In fact, there was a big smear campaign run in India, which Supreme Court of India later on ruled. Initially, there was a fine imposed on Art of Living, and 5 crore rupees Art of Living said we'll pay. But as a manner of legalities, we pursued that. And while we're not here to badmouth anybody, but there was a big organization, and the person who was heading that organization, there was a lobby which was doing the whole thing. So technically, no damage done. In fact, Art of Living restored not only the banks, but also they cleaned. There was so much of cleaning done. You know how many people attended that event? 20 million people attended what was one of the greatest events organized in the history of India. And to bring the whole world in that event, Art of Living cleaned, which is not something people talk about, and all the banks which was restored, which was later on ruled in the favor as well. So, yeah.
So the Supreme Court discharged the case?
Yeah, exactly.
So then penalized?
There was nothing. Later on it was all. See, we are a humanitarian organization.
No, sure.
And when such a press goes on, and you have a master, Sri Ravi Shankar, today Sri Ravi Shankar, there's no country who doesn't seek him. Whether it is countries in Venezuela or those, he's the one who's the peace ambassador. The United Nations seeks his advice to bring peace in the conflict regions. The European Parliament gets him to speak on the ethics and management every year. So when people like him are pulled into this type of publicity, what would he do? He'll say, okay, he's here to give. He's not here to take anything, right? That's why we do that. Yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yes, please. Any other questions? All right, thank you. And of course, I and Archana are here, and we're happy to answer any questions one-on-one if you like to, yeah. And we can come back if there's anything more you like to hear. Thank you.